Welcome to part 32 of Was I in a Cult? So in the last episode, I was talking about how I had become interested in the prison ministry and started attending meetings. I was super excited about this new opportunity to do a different type of ministry and also to get to know my new friend Susan. I had wanted to spend time with her for so long, but she wasn't able to because she was in the home and they weren't really allowed to associate or hang out with anyone outside of their own little communal living situation. Since she graduated the home, she was in the re-entry at that point, which meant that she still lived at the home and she was still under a lot of their authority. However, she had a little bit more privileges as long as she didn't mess up. If she messed up and came home late or broke her curfew in some way, then there was potential to lose those privileges. That put me under a little bit of pressure because there were times where we would hang out and she would realize that she might be a little past curfew. I remember feeling responsible for getting her back to the home on time, and I was not always really good at that. Mind you, the woman's 34 years old and she has a curfew. Excuse me? I know. That's what you sign up for when you enter into living in that type of situation. But honestly, like, why are there even situations that you can live in like that? I was like 20, 21, and I didn't have a curfew. And I was so glad that I didn't actually put myself in that living situation because I almost did. However, talking to her and seeing how much of a great relationship she seemed to have with God, I was interested in how she lived her life. I was interested in how these women in the home lived their lives because I just felt like they were probably the closest of the closest to God because they spent mostly all day with God. But then I decided, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I decided that I wanted to check out what it was like to be at the home. So I had this like little idea that I would go over to the home on Tuesdays and spend the day there and just act as though I was in the home and just have the home experience, kind of like a trial day in the home. I really just wanted to get closer to Susan. Honestly, because of Susan, I actually started to want to live there. I don't know if it was because I wanted to follow the program at all, more so than I really wanted to get closer to Susan. I just wanted to be around her all the time. She couldn't like really hang out much except for on Friday or Saturday night. Other than that, she had to be like doing her program. So I was like, what is this program that you're doing? And if I do the program, maybe I could just be able to have more time to get to know you. I do remember that I even talked to, at the time, Sandra, because she was still my leader. I consider her still my leader. I told her, what do you think about me going into the home? Well, she didn't have a really good relationship with the lady that ran the home in the first place. She was like, absolutely not. I don't think that's a good idea. And I'm actually glad that I took her suggestion because she didn't have a good relationship with that person because that person was very dominating, very controlling, and very jealous of Sandra. She would actually always try to get Sandra in trouble the way other people were trying to get me in trouble with Sandra. It was like this woman was like, Sandra's not accountable to anyone. And she would always just talk crap and try to give people a different impression of who Sandra was. She was like one of the church gossip girls, although she was like so highly respected in leadership as she had a high leadership position. Sandra told me, she's like, you're already in leadership. Why would you step down from leadership to go in the home when you already have a foundation. You've already taken Foundations of Faith, you've already taken your classes, you've already like been committed and faithful in ministry, you've already learned about prayer and reading your word. So why would you want to go in the home? She told me you'll like basically lose all your freedom. You won't be able to like go evangelize or do any of the ministries that you're involved in. You won't even be able to continue being a Bible study leader that you are. So she just didn't suggest it, and I was like, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't. So I remember instead going to the leader and asking her if I could just come and spend some time at the home on Tuesdays, and I would go early in the morning until like the end of their day. I kind of just wanted to see what their day-to-day was like so that I could like implement that into my own life as much as I possibly could, because I also did have a true desire to get closer to God. And I know that there were times that I struggled with having not that I struggled with having a prayer life, I struggled with living up to the expectation of what leadership thought was considered a good prayer life. Leadership always said that you should not leave the house without prayer ever, and you should pray for like an entire hour before you get up to do anything else. And I was having a hard time living up to that. They also said you should like pray an hour before going to bed as well. So that was like 2 hours of prayer a day, and I was probably not even doing, I know I wasn't doing that. It was considered a discipline, and I was considered as kind of undisciplined because I would pray, but then, I remember when I was like done with prayer and ready to like go do something else, because I also have a hard time focusing on something for a long period of time unless it's I don't know how to explain it, but I can hyper focus. I do not know and have not been diagnosed with anything, but I have had signs that I have noticed of some ADHD, and I'm undiagnosed, so I can't really say that I do or do not have that. However, I'm possibly undiagnosed, but showing signs. So having a prayer life that was an hour long was not something I could actually do at the time. I think 20 minutes was like my amount of prayer time that I was doing, and I would try to do it when I wake up, but and sometimes it would just be like 10-15 minutes. I just didn't know what to talk about sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you just start praying and it's like, okay, like I said my basic prayers for the day, and like technically when you really think about it, the Bible tells you how to pray, you know what I mean? And it doesn't say anything about there's a time limit on your prayer that it has to be a whole hour. I don't know why they decided that that was like what we needed to do, but it was. So I always felt like I wasn't doing enough. So I think my thought process was that if I enter into the home and I have to pray with these people for an hour, then I would just learn how to do it. However, when we did pray, I think most of the prayers had to do with praying for the church and the growth of the church, and for the pastor and his wife, and for the leadership and their wives, and whatever the church was doing, and especially praying for the vision of the church. That was about an hour. Then there was about 5 or 6 hours of cleaning one of the leaders' homes and cleaning the pastor's wife's home. So from that, I learned that their basic method of discipleship was sending the women in the home to go clean houses. That's why they couldn't have real jobs, because then the pastor's wives' homes wouldn't get cleaned. When I say pastor's wives, I mean like our founding pastor and his wife, and then the junior youth leader, pastor and his wife, and then the leaders in the church that were like elders and their wives. That was their idea of serving unto the Lord. I think they may have read the Bible for 15 or 20 minutes also. So that was my inside look at how life was in the home. More later. Bye.